I'm happy with my life right now. Yeah, you're rich, you're cultured, so why bother coming to find me? Let's just pretend this never happened. You have your family. I have mine. Nothing needs to change, right? You think your old life was great, and I think my current life is great. Let's both be happy and leave it at that. Goodbye. I practically bolted from the fancy restaurant, hopped on my scooter, and sped back to my tiny apartment. Once there, I flopped onto my bed, a knot of frustration tightening in my chest. I just broken up with my girlfriend a few days ago, and now, out of nowhere, this woman shows up, claiming to be my older sister. She said I was accidentally swapped at birth, and that they wanted me back. Okay, fine, I thought initially. Being found isn't a big deal. But then she'd acted so high and mighty, looking down on me, judging everything. Was this really a reunion? If I actually went back with them, I doubted I'd have an easy life. It'd probably be like those stories where the fake son gets schemed against and undermined at every turn. The thought made me too agitated to even try to calm down. I immediately started packing a bag and headed straight for the train station. It wasn't until I was settled on the express train that I started to relax a bit, letting my mind drift back through my life. My dad passed away when I was really little. Mom told me later. She worked hard on the farm, and my uncle's family helped out, and together they managed to raise me. I never complained about my life. Well, maybe about a stingy boss once or twice. Now, though, I felt uneasy. That supposed sister had found Mom first, and then me. I was terrified Mom would reject me, that she'd feel like she'd wasted all those years raising the wrong kid, regretting all her hard work. My hometown wasn't far. The express train only took 2 stops, then it was a half-hour bus ride, and finally a long walk down a country road to our place. I carried my backpack, not moving very fast as I walked past fields stretching on both sides. As I reached the end of the road, I froze. Standing at the intersection was a girl in a white pleated dress, her path blocked by 2 dogs, one black, one yellow. She was clutching her suitcase, visibly trembling, and with every step she retreated, the dogs advanced. "Buster! Shadow!" I yelled, startling the girl. The 2 dogs' eyes lit up, their guard dissolving. They happily bounded towards me, tails wagging furiously. They belonged to our neighbor. I always played with them when I came home. "What are you 2 up to?" I crouched down, petting one dog with each hand. "Woof! Woof!" Shadow barked twice, then looked back at the girl. I looked up, meeting her gaze. She had very fair skin, and her face was delicately pretty, the kind of girl I usually only saw on TikTok. But right now, her face was pale and drained of color, and she looked a little unsteady on her feet. "Go on home." I patted both dogs on the head. They barked again, circled me twice, and then darted off toward the town. "Don't be so scared, they don't bite," I said with a smile. "You're not from Miller's Bend, are you? Lost?" Yes. I've already contacted my family. They'll be here as soon as they can, but I'm really hungry." As she said the last part, a faint blush crept onto her pale cheeks, and she looked down. "Want to come to my place for something to eat? Plus, it's super hot out. You don't want to get heat stroke. If I were in the city, I definitely wouldn't get involved. But out here in my own town, I wasn't worried about any kind of scam." "Okay, thank you." The girl wasn't shy. In fact, she seemed a little daring, following a stranger like me into town. "What's your name?" she asked, probably trying to break the awkward silence. "Ethan Miller." "You," I replied, taking her lead. "What a coincidence. My last name is also Miller, Chloe Miller." She seemed a little surprised. I glanced back at her, a strange look on my face. "Didn't you see the town's welcome sign?" "All right, I did. Miller's Bend." I only felt comfortable coming in because I saw the same last name, Chloe said, lowering her head, a bit embarrassed. Was this girl a little ditzy? "So what brings you all the way out to a place this remote?" I pressed. Chloe looked a bit uncomfortable, maybe feeling foolish. She stammered out her story. She was supposed to go to some beach resort, but her Uber driver dropped her off here. I nodded. It wasn't far from a beach, only about a half-hour walk, but it was still quite a ways from any actual planned resorts. "Mom," I called as we reached our front door. I tried to push it open, but it was locked. Instead, Buster and Shadow ran up from the neighbor's yard, circling us, especially sniffing at Chloe's feet. "Ah, help!" Chloe yelped, pressing herself tightly against my back, an unavoidable contact. "I told you they don't bite. They probably just think you're my friend and need to get your scent. They won't be wary of you after that." I explained, my body stiff. "Ethan, Is that really you? A woman emerged from a nearby path, carrying a hoe. Mom, I thought you weren't going out to the fields anymore. I jogged over, a hint of annoyance in my voice, and took the hoe from her. Just planting some vegetables for ourselves, Mom said, her eyes crinkling with a smile. Then, remembering something, she asked, "Why are you back? Aren't you? And who is this?" She trailed off, looking at Chloe. Chloe, having been suddenly left alone by me, was now surrounded by the two dogs and couldn't move. "This is Chloe Evans. She was on her way to the beach, but got dropped off at the edge of town, said she was hungry and thirsty, so I brought her back." I explained casually, grabbing the key to unlock the door. "Hi, Mrs. Miller." Chloe greeted her a little shyly. "Hello, dear, come right in. I'll make you something to eat." Mom nodded repeatedly, already fussing. "You're clearly not used to hardship, my dear. Going hungry for too long can upset your stomach." "Thank you, Mrs. Miller." Chloe's face was bright red. She insisted on helping in the kitchen, but she was so clumsy she had no idea what to do. I rolled my eyes. Where did this socialite come from? She was sweet, but utterly useless in the kitchen, just getting in the way. All right, go sit down. You look so pale. I'm worried you're going to pass out." I took her arm and led her to the living room. Chloe looked guilty, her gaze drifting towards the kitchen every now and then. "When are your family coming?" I asked, trying to distract her. My family is very busy. It might take a while," Chloe said, her eyes flickering nervously. I eyed her suspiciously. "You didn't run away from home, did you?" "And no." Chloe looked at me, then guiltily lowered her head. She then met Shadow's gaze and quickly shifted her eyes away. I continued. "Then after dinner, should I take you to the resort?" "Oh, no thanks. I canceled the reservation." Chloe kept her head down. Something was off. Definitely off. She seemed to be throwing a tantrum, running away from home. "So, what are your plans then?" I probed. "Well," Chloe asked cautiously, "could I stay here for a few days? Do you think that a good idea?" I looked at her. She fiddled with her dress, seemingly hesitant. I expected her to feel embarrassed and, after a moment, say she should leave. But I waited a long time, and she didn't say a word. "Dinner's ready." Just as I was about to speak, Mom called us to the table. "Let's eat first. After that, we can figure out where you'll go," I said, getting up to head to the dining table. Chloe stood up and followed. "Mrs. Miller, can I stay here for a few days?" she suddenly asked my mom. "Ich starte hier, Stund." "Of course, dear. Stay as long as you need." Mom agreed without a hint of hesitation, a warm smile on her face. Now I stared at Mom, bewildered. Were these two just completely ignoring the playbook? After dinner and a shower, I went upstairs to my room. Our house was a two-story home my uncle helped build years ago, saying it'd be perfect for when I got married and had kids. They could live on the second floor when they grew up. I just laid down when I heard Mom and Chloe talking outside, something about bed sheets. I opened my door and looked into the adjacent room. Chloe had already showered and changed into a loose t-shirt and knee-length shorts. She stood nervously, watching Mom make up her bed. "You're really planning to stay here?" I frowned. Chloe was undeniably beautiful, but I didn't dare entertain any thoughts. If I couldn't even hold on to a girl like my ex, what chance did I have with a millionaire's daughter? "What's wrong with that?" Before Chloe could answer, Mom shot me a disapproving look. "The girl told me her family's too busy and can't get here right away. What's wrong with letting her stay for a few days?" I was speechless and retreated to my room. Chloe's interruption meant I lost my chance to question Mom. But Mom's attitude seemed unchanged. She didn't seem bothered by having raised the wrong child all these years. That put my mind at ease somewhat. I picked up my phone to write. I'm a freelance writer, mostly screenplays for short films. My novels haven't really taken off, but getting a short film script picked up earns me $5,000, which is my main source of income. I used to live in the city to be with my girlfriend, but now that we've broken up, I'm happy to stay put at home. If I get bored, I can even take Mom traveling. No restrictions. Knock, 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 the door to my room. I put my phone down and went to open it. "What's up?" "So many mosquitoes." Chloe wrinkled her nose, looking pitiful. "Mosquitoes." I took 2 steps to look into her room. "It's summer. Just turn the fan on and point it at yourself. No more mosquitoes." Chloe immediately said, "It gets a little chilly at night. The fan will make me cold." "Then just pull up the sheet," I replied, then went back into my room. But not long after, another knock. "Now what?" I sighed, a little exasperated. If she weren't so pretty, I might have actually lost my temper. The fan's uncomfortable. I can't sleep, Chloe mumbled, pouting slightly. I thought for a moment. That's because you're not tired. A little walk outside should fix that. Then you come with me. Chloe looked up, her eyes pleading. Remembering how scared she was of dogs, I agreed. Her eyes brightened, and she quickly went to change into sandals. As soon as we stepped outside, Buster and Shadow darted over for next door. Chloe was still a bit wary, gripping my arm and occasionally dodging their enthusiastic nudges. Most young people had moved away for work, not trusting their children with the elderly anymore, so by 8 p.m., the town was incredibly quiet. Even the birds were asleep, leaving only the chirping of insects. The stars are so beautiful. With Buster and Shadow having gotten their fill of sniffing and now running ahead, Chloe relaxed and truly enjoyed the night sky. I looked up too, at a sky so clear you'd never see it in the city. Country life is actually really nice, Chloe smiled. I shot her a sideways glance, deflating her a bit. Wait until you have to plant an acre of corn. You'll change your tune. Chloe pouted, clearly not wanting to hear my unromantic commentary. She seemed to be thinking of something. You're not tan at all. You must work in the city, right? Why are you suddenly back? My job is the same no matter where I am, I answered casually. We walked along the paved road, a small creek on one side, fields on the other, the air wonderfully crisp. What's that buzzing sound? Crickets. What kind of bug is it? Probably a cricket. In the quiet world, only the sounds of insects and flowing water could be heard, punctuated by Chloe's curious questions and my calm, unchanging replies. After circling the town, we returned home. I quietly typed on my phone. The guest in the next room didn't bother me again. Chloe Miller. Sterling Miller. Didn't my older sister go to meet him? Why didn't she bring him to meet Mom and Dad? And why did he come back to Miller's Bend so quickly? Chloe blinked her confused eyes, drowsiness finally setting in. Fan uncomfortable? No such thing. When you're tired enough, a little discomfort is nothing. The next morning, she woke up cold, got out of bed, turned off the fan, rubbed her eyes, and went downstairs. Up so early, dear? Toothbrush and toothpaste are here. Cups and towels, too. Ethan, that boy, heard you weren't used to our old stuff last night, so he went out early to buy new ones. There are breakfast burritos and coffee on the table, Mom said, then grabbed her farming tools and headed out. I wasn't really not used to it, Chloe mumbled to herself. Then she picked up the toothbrush and toothpaste to wash up before sitting at the table, looking at the steaming breakfast burritos and coffee. This is so good. Her eyes lit up. She looked at the pastry in her hand, surprised. It was much more substantial than anything she'd had before. She took a sip of coffee. It was sweet and rich. After my second round of sleep, I finally went downstairs to wash up. When I got to the table, I was a little stunned. I turned to Chloe, who was watching TV in the living room. Did you eat all my share? Huh? Chloe froze. Then her face turned bright red. She said weakly, I only saw 1 cup of coffee, so I thought you'd already eaten. All right, I'll go buy more. I was just amazed at her appetite. These burritos weren't like the ones in the city. They were bigger and packed with more filling. I bought 8, figuring Mom would eat 3, Chloe 2, and I'd have 3, plenty for everyone. Who knew she was such a bottomless pit? As for why there was only 1 cup of coffee, it was because I don't usually drink it. I'll pay. Chloe immediately stood up, turned off the TV, and followed me out. As I sat on my scooter, she quickly came over, placed her hands on my waist, and with a light hop, sat sideways behind me. In that moment, my feelings were a little complicated. My ex-girlfriend in the city would never have ridden my scooter. She always took a cab everywhere. I hadn't expected this rich girl to not only not mind, but actually look a little excited. The scooter started up, and the cool morning breeze was refreshing. The paved road stretched long, cutting through a large expanse of fields, until we finally reached the small town. Though not as bustling as during the holidays, it was still lively, with many parents dropping their kids off at school and then buying groceries at the market. Hey boss, 2 pastries, 2 sausage biscuits, and another coffee and a sweet roll. Just as I stopped and finished my order, Chloe quickly added to it, then paid for everything. I couldn't help but chuckle wryly. Well, she still wasn't full. Want to take a little detour after we eat? I asked her. Yes. Chloe nodded enthusiastically. After breakfast, I drove her to the main street. She bought a sun hat, and then we headed to the park. We didn't get back to town until almost noon. Instead of going straight home, I took a detour down a small path and found Mom. She was indeed in the garden, weeding her small vegetable patch. Mom, Mrs. Miller. I parked the scooter, and Chloe hopped off, jogging into the garden. Let me help you. She put on her sun hat, crouched down to observe for a moment, then started pulling weeds by hand. Oh, you don't need to help, dear. Mom protested a little, but Chloe ignored her, happily pulling weeds. I helped out too, and we finished the weeding quickly. Come on. Let's go home. I'll make you lunch. You, young lady, I told you not to help. Look at your hands. Mom couldn't help but fuss, but her smile never faded. She then declined Chloe's offer for a ride and walked back with her tools. I took Chloe to the nearby creek to wash our hands. The water came from the river and was clean and fresh. It's so cool. Oh, look, little fish. Chloe's smile was infectious. Time to go eat. I stood up. They say country folk who go to the city and find everything new are bumpkins. So what do you call a city girl who comes to the country and finds everything new? Mrs. Miller, this food is so good. Chloe leaned back, patting her stomach with an exaggerated gesture. Mom was beaming with pride. I, on the other hand, was a little speechless. This girl really made herself at home, didn't she? After lunch, Mom went to play cards with her neighbors and friends. That's why I never took Mom to live in the city. Here in Miller's Bend, she had plenty of friends to play cards and chat with, and she could always go visit my uncle's family. If she went to the city, she wouldn't have this kind of freedom. Ethan, where are we going this afternoon? Chloe asked, her eyes full of anticipation. She was already calling me Ethan. I poured myself some tea, saying exasperatedly, "It's too hot this afternoon. You'll be as dark as a berry in 2 days." Chloe grumbled and started playing on her phone. I turned on the TV, putting on some reality show, but mostly I just typed on my phone. I would have gone back to my room, but it didn't feel right to leave a young woman alone in the living room. Ethan, how do I fill out the shipping address here? Chloe suddenly looked up. Was she really planning on staying for good? I was silent for a moment, then decided to just go with it. I couldn't bring myself to kick her out anyway, and Mom definitely wouldn't allow it. The nearest drop-off is in the next town over. Open your Maps app. Yeah, right here. I walked over, stood beside her, and leaned down, pointing with my finger. When I was done, I started to straighten up. Ethan, wait. Chloe grabbed my hand before I could pull it away, but quickly released it, pointing at the map. What's Old Fort Sentinel? It sounds so cool. It must be impressive, right? Chloe turned to me, her eyes sparkling as if to say, take me there. Maybe someday. I mumbled, not committing. It was too far, over an hour on the scooter. Okay. Chloe nodded happily, as if she truly believed it. The water was boiling, so I started brewing tea. Tea kept me focused, which was perfect for what I did. Want some tea? I asked Chloe. When she shook her head, I poured all of it into my big mug, and then poured her a glass of plain hot water to cool. Just as I took a sip of tea and went back to writing, she spoke up loudly. Great. I bought some sunscreen. Once it arrives, we can go out this afternoon. I felt truly defeated. I just didn't get how her mind worked. Was living in the country really that enjoyable? No air conditioning, no luxury stores, nowhere to go shopping. Sigh. Oh well, she'd probably get bored in a couple of days. I shook my head internally and kept typing. Around 5 in the afternoon, the summer sun hadn't set yet, but it wasn't overly hot. I carried a lounge chair outside to soak up the sun. Chloe only stood outside for a moment before retreating indoors, unable to bear the sun. I didn't write. Instead, I petted Buster and Shadow, reminiscing about my childhood. When I was a kid, I never understood how hard Mom worked. Every day I just played, running wild around town with the other kids after school. Was that life really worse than a rich kid's? No, it was incredibly happy. To hell with the Sterling family's wealth. I didn't want to go there and face their cold stares. Around 5:30 p.m., Mom returned and started making dinner. I helped wash vegetables. Chloe, on the other hand, was causing trouble. Helping. Either way, she was having fun. At dinner, I noticed her appetite seemed even better, probably because she was adapting to the environment. I glanced at her slender waist, mostly hidden by her loose t-shirt, and wondered where all that food went. Yesterday, her dress had revealed just how tiny her waist was. My gaze drifted upwards. Ahem, I think I found my answer. Quickly, before I was caught, I looked away. After dinner, she tried to help with the dishes again, until she broke a bowl, then sheepishly retreated to the living room. I wanted to laugh. Maybe she caught my smirk because she shot me a fierce glare. 2 days later, at the Sterling family mansion in the city. What in the world is going on? Have we still not found Chloe? Richard Sterling, the middle-aged patriarch, frowned, looking at his eldest daughter, Olivia. We can reach her. Chloe says she's fine and on vacation. She'll text and send voice messages, but she won't answer video calls. Olivia looked distressed. That child, Sarah Sterling, a beautiful woman nearby, also looked worried. Dad, what about Ethan? Olivia asked hesitantly. Richard waved his hand. First, let's find Chloe. Ethan can wait. Okay. Olivia sighed softly, continuing to try to contact her sister on her phone. Richard remembered something. How's Liam doing? Is he still upset about Ethan? He's a little unhappy, Olivia admitted. Chloe finished replying to a message, then skipped down from the second floor. Took you long enough? I said. I was already geared up, wearing a straw hat, a water bottle in my left hand, and a bucket in my right. Coming. Chloe didn't care. She put on her sun hat and grabbed a small net. The two of us left the house and headed for the fields, Buster and Shadow trotting beside us. After 3 days, Chloe was no longer scared of the dogs. On one side, the cornfields had been harvested and wild grass had grown tall, making it look like a vast prairie. There were also some cows and even some water buffalo in the fields. Alongside these fields ran irrigation ditches, fed by the small river, which were home to small fish. I closed the sluice gate, and the water level in the ditch slowly dropped. Then I jumped in to catch fish. Chloe, already impatient, grabbed her net and followed. The two dogs, fearless, leaped into the water to play. Yay, so many fish. Ooh, this fish is so pretty. Hey, Buster, what are you doing? My clothes are all wet. The girls' joyful laughter echoed through the fields. When we were tired of playing, we packed up to go home. These little fish aren't for eating. Why are you bringing them back? I asked, holding the bucket, a little helpless. I can keep them as pets, Chloe said, truly reluctant to part with her catch. Like a kid, I thought. I remembered doing the same when I was little, bringing fish home to keep. Now, it just sounded like a hassle. My mom definitely won't agree. I warned her, trying to prepare her so she wouldn't cry if Mom said no. But then, Mom came out of the storage room with a large basin for her to keep the fish in. It was the same kind of basin I used to bathe in as a child, wide but shallow. I was baffled. Mom, why are you being so biased? I vaguely remembered one time when I brought home some small fish and Mom immediately dumped them into the creek. I cried in my bed for ages, swearing I'd never talk to Mom again, until a good spanking set me straight. The next day, we took a cab to Sentinel Hill. I was amazed I used to bike here with my friends when I was a kid, never minding the sun. Sentinel Hill wasn't very high, and Chloe only stopped once before we reached the top. It's so grand. If you focused on the architecture and the natural landscape, it really felt like stepping back in time. We explored our way, soon arriving at the main keep of Old Fort Sentinel. The statue inside was huge, with long hair, bare feet, dressed in a dark robe and golden armor, wielding a sword, eyes blazing, stepping on a turtle and a snake. A truly formidable sight. Chloe paused respectfully, then we left. Here, take a picture of me. She stood by a railing and asked me to take her photo. I opened my phone and noticed all the beauty filters were on. I hadn't taken photos in a long time. I deleted all my ex-girlfriend's pictures, but forgotten about the camera's filter settings. Chloe was beautiful. These filters actually made her look a bit artificial, so I turned them all off, leaving only a subtle fresh look effect. Nice photography skills. Remember to send them to me. Then we explored other sites, taking more pictures, and made it back home for dinner. The next day, ow, Ethan, my feet really hurt. Chloe winced, looking pitiful. I immediately guessed why and burst out laughing. You were so happy yesterday. I told you to come back early, but you insisted on running around everywhere. You're impossible. Chloe angrily slapped my shoulder. Oof, this girl looked delicate, but her arm had some serious power. I grimaced, quickly moving from one chair to another. I played on my phone for a bit, then realized she was quiet. I looked up, only to find her glaring at me, her small face filled with reproach. All right, I'll get some liniment for you. I got up and went to the kitchen, found a jar, and poured some into a cup. My uncle made it, specifically for sprains and bruises. I wasn't sure if it would work. Here, rub this on. You should be fine by tomorrow. I offered her the cup. Chloe sniffed the strong scent and made a face. Ethan, could you do it for me? Please. She really didn't want to touch the liniment, thinking it would be hard to wash off. So she looked at me with those pleading eyes. This was a trick she'd learned the past couple of days. If she softened her attitude, I'd usually cave. I really couldn't resist. My ex-girlfriend had never been this openly affectionate. So I sat down. Chloe slipped her foot out of her sandal and tried to lift it, but it was too sore. Just as she was about to use her hand to pull it up, I leaned down, lifted her foot, and placed it on my lap. Then I poured a bit of liniment into my hand and massaged her calf. Call me a simp, but those were truly lovely calves, and they felt surprisingly good to massage. Chloe fiddled with her phone, but her face was flushed. When Mom came home at noon and heard about her aching feet, she even went outside to pick some unknown plants, boiled water, and made a foot bath for her. And she didn't forget to scold me a bit, too. That evening, Mom called me for talk. Ethan, what did the Sterling family say? It was finally time. I was silent for a moment, then said seriously, Mom, can I not acknowledge them? Mom paused, then asked worriedly, did they give you a hard time? I didn't answer that question. Instead, I asked, has the guy I was swapped with ever come to see you? Well, Mom looked down slightly. The answer was obvious. Mom, I'll always be here for you, I said firmly. Good. Mom wiped her eyes and nodded, smiling. I went upstairs, thought for a moment, then knocked on Chloe's door. It took a while for a voice to respond. Come in. Hearing her, I pushed the door open. She was sitting in a chair, her phone set aside, hands empty, but her gaze kept drifting towards the device. I didn't go in. When are you planning to leave? You're kicking me out. Chloe froze, then shifted nervously, as if wanting to say something. No, I shook my head. I'm going to the city for 2 days. I was just worried you'd be bored. Chloe blinked. What are you going to the city for? Personal business. Can I come with you? She seemed a little hopeful. I said it's personal business. I can't really bring you along, I replied, shaking my head. Chloe's eyes darted around, and she quickly made a decision. The city is really close to my family's place. I can have my family pick me up there. I paused, then nodded. Okay, then pack your things. We leave at 8 tomorrow morning. Even though I really didn't want to face the Sterling family, I had to go. I wanted to see what the person I'd been swapped with was really like. If he wasn't willing to face Mom, or was afraid of simple life, then there was no need for us to be connected at all. Better to resolve it quickly than stew in frustration every day. Ethan, Chloe, be careful on the road. Mom fussed. She'd come to terms with things. My dad had died young, and she'd worked so hard to raise me. I was a good son. Did it really matter if I was her biological child? Don't worry, Mom. If things go fast, we might even be back tonight. I called an Uber, and Chloe and I headed to the train station for the city. We arrived at my old apartment just before lunchtime. Want to rest here for a bit? We can order takeout for lunch. I'm going to take care of my personal business. I might not make it back for lunch. Okay, you go. Chloe nodded obediently. She looked a little too compliant. I nodded, unblocked a certain phone number, and dialed it as I headed downstairs. The person on the other end gave me an address when they heard I was coming over, and I hailed a cab. I didn't notice that as soon as I left, Chloe also went downstairs and called her own cab. I arrived at the gate of the private community where the address was located. As I got out of the cab, an older man in a suit walked over. Are you young Master Miller? Yes, I'm Ethan Miller. This way, young Master Miller. Then I got into another car, which drove through the community and into the mansion district, stopping outside a grand house. As I stepped out, I saw 3 people waiting by the entrance, a middle-aged couple and the older sister who had first found me a few days ago. My child, Sarah Sterling, suddenly rushed forward and embraced me, completely catching me off guard. This wasn't how the script was supposed to go, was it? Weren't they supposed to give me the cold shoulder and treat me with disdain? After a moment of shock, I looked at the other 2. Richard Sterling also looked emotional, gazing at me, and Olivia had an apologetic look in her eyes. What was going on? Let's go inside first, Richard said. Yes. Sarah finally released me, tears in her eyes. I forced myself to remain calm. I'm only here to confirm one thing. Even if this family was willing to accept me, I couldn't abandon Mom. I wouldn't live here. I'd stay with her in Miller's Bend. I hadn't even finished speaking when I saw a young man, dressed in designer clothes, slowly approaching from the mansion. I immediately froze. This wasn't right. This guy looked no older than 17 or 18, at least 4 or 5 years younger than me. How could there have been a mix-up with that big age difference? Dad, Mom, Olivia. Just then, a familiar voice came from behind me. I was even more confused. I turned around. Wasn't that Chloe? It's Chloe. Chloe, where have you been, you little rascal? Olivia immediately rushed over, playfully poking her sister's forehead, quite annoyed. Even Liam ran over. I stood there, dumbfounded, my thoughts in a jumble. What was happening? Ethan, surprised, aren't you? What a shocker, huh? Chloe walked over and playfully slapped my shoulder. Now the Sterling couple, Olivia and Liam, were all bewildered. A question arose in their minds. These two know each other? And they seem really close. My original last name was Sterling. Now it should be Miller. And your original last name was Miller. Now it has to be Sterling. Get what I mean? Chloe explained. It finally clicked in my head. So the person I'd been swapped with was her? Inside the Sterling mansion, after an hour of explanations, everything finally made sense. Olivia had been upset when she first came to find me because she'd just heard the news of her sister's runaway. So her tone had sounded dismissive, but it was mostly out of self-reproach, hoping I'd go back to college later. As for Chloe running away, that was obvious. She'd gone to meet her birth mother without revealing her identity. The Sterling family hadn't sought me out sooner because they'd assumed Chloe hadn't accepted the reality of the situation and had run away, wanting to appease her first. As for Liam's reluctance, he didn't want his older sister to leave, and he was afraid I might be a troublemaker who would bully him. Now all misunderstandings were resolved. Chloe hadn't rejected Mom. In fact, they'd gotten along great. And I hadn't been rejected by the Sterling family. After we all had lunch together, I wanted to tell Mom the news myself, and Chloe, as her birth daughter, naturally wanted to come along. Watching the two kids get into the car with Mr. Henderson, the butler, driving, the Sterling couple exchanged glances, both seeing joy in the other's eyes. From the interactions between the two children, they weren't just relieved they wouldn't lose Chloe. They had gained Ethan, their biological son, back. Back in Miller's Bend. After Mr. Henderson drove off, Chloe ran into the house, shouting, "Mom, we're back." "Oh, huh." Mom's initial cheerful response faltered, and her smile stiffened as she looked at me walking through the door. Had that rascal gone out for half a day and gotten a girl pregnant? She looked around, searching for a certain long-hidden weapon. Today, that rascal was going to relive his childhood memories. Seeing the look on Mom's face, I knew I was in trouble and quickly explained everything. Then mother and daughter hugged, crying buckets of tears. Mom was overjoyed. Her son hadn't abandoned her, and her daughter was wonderful. It was 1 + 1 = 2, and who knew, maybe it would equal 3 someday. Then Mom called my uncle, and she wanted to take Chloe to visit the neighbors. Chloe was a little embarrassed and insisted I come along. So off we went, visiting house to house. The next day, my uncle rushed over, giving Chloe a big red envelope. He suggested we all go out for a celebratory dinner, but Mom stopped him. Still, my uncle and Mom went out to buy groceries, leaving Chloe and me at home. Dinner was full of laughter and warmth. My uncle even said he'd need a couple of days to prepare, but he absolutely had to go visit the Sterling family. However, 2 days later, a major hurricane rolled in, and plans had to be postponed. Chloe, scared by the storm, even came to sleep in my room that night. Nothing happened, but from that night on, our relationship rapidly deepened. By the time we finally went to the Sterling family's house, we were holding hands. Richard and Sarah Sterling saw it and were delighted. Both families met, and the entire visit was filled with smiles and laughter. My uncle even joked, "It feels like a meeting between in-laws." The adults chuckled. Chloe blushed and lowered her head. I just squeezed her hand gently. Even Liam was no longer distant. He had a good older brother, and his sister hadn't left him. Years later, I was still curious and asked why a boy and a girl could be swapped at birth. The answer was that there had been a commotion at the hospital back then, and both sets of parents had given birth around the same time. There wasn't time to report the babies' genders before they were hastily moved, leading to the mix-up. It sounded a little far-fetched, but it didn't matter, Because we were getting married. Another 6 months passed. In Miller's Bend, Chloe and I sat on lounge chairs by the front door, basking in the evening sun. Buster and Shadow ran over, curiously sniffing Chloe's slightly swollen belly. Chloe smiled and stroked their heads. I smiled too, then looked down, continuing to read the book in my hands. After sniffing, the two dogs lay down beside us, panting softly. Everything was perfect. End.